The Blue Train, a fancy train, leaves Calais for the sunny Riviera. Catherine Gray, a shy Englishwoman, carries her aunt's ruby necklace and a secret letter. Detective Hercule Poirot joins the trip, sensing trouble. As the train rolls, secrets, theft, and old war crimes unravel, leading to a final showdown in Nice that catches a master criminal and clears old wrongs.
Chapter 1. The Sapphire Departure. The blue train gleamed like a polished gem against the twilight sky, its sapphire-hued carriages slicing through the fading light of Calais as it embarked on its journey to the sunlit Riviera. A marvel of engineering and elegance, it was a rolling palace for Europe's elite, its velvet-lined interiors exuding the scent of polished rosewood and fresh orchids arranged in silver vases. Hercule Poirot, the diminutive Belgian detective with a penchant for precision, adjusted his pristine patent leather shoes and smoothed his emerald-green waistcoat as he settled into his first-class compartment. His egg-shaped head tilted slightly, his sharp green eyes scanning the corridor like a watchmaker inspecting gears. "Mon Dieu," he murmured, twirling the wax tips of his iconic moustache. "The blue train is a canvas of opulence, yet beneath its luster one senses the brushstrokes of intrigue." Poirot had boarded not for leisure, but on an impulse, a brief escape from the labyrinthian cases of London and Brussels. Yet his little grey cells, as he affectionately called them, were never idle. They buzzed now, attuned to the rhythmic clatter of wheels on tracks, each sound a potential clue in a symphony of secrets. He unpacked his valise with ceremonial care, placing a monogrammed silver comb beside a vial of lavender cologne, transforming the compact space into a bastion of order. Across the corridor, in a compartment adorned with damask curtains, sat Catherine Gray, a 32-year-old Englishwoman whose unassuming demeanor belied her newfound wealth. Her late aunt, the eccentric Lady Eleanor Winthrop, had bequeathed her a fortune, including a choker of Burmese rubies that now rested against her throat. The gems, rumored to have been pried from a sunken galleon off the Malabar coast, glowed with a fire that seemed to pulse with secrets. Catherine's fingers grazed the stones, her hazel eyes reflecting both wonder and unease. Until recently, her life had been one of quiet routine in a Dorset village, tending to her aunt's rose garden and reading poetry by candlelight. This journey was her first foray into the wider world, a mission to deliver a sealed letter from her aunt to a solicitor in Nice, a task that felt weightier than the rubies themselves. In the adjacent compartment, the Marquis de Varennes, a lean Frenchman with a hawkish nose and a reputation for discreet scandals, lounged with a glass of absinthe. His tailored suit bore the faint scent of cigar smoke, and his dark eyes flickered with the restless energy of a man accustomed to bending fate to his will. He glanced through his open door at Catherine, his lips curling into a half-smile as he noted her jewels. Such treasures, he mused aloud to no one, are magnets for trouble. The dining car, a few carriages down, was a hive of murmurs and clinking crystal as passengers gathered for the evening's aperitif. Poirot, drawn by the aroma of roasted chestnuts and cognac, entered to find a tableau of wealth and ambition. At one table sat Isabella Moretti, an Italian opera singer whose raven hair and emerald gown drew every eye. Her laughter, sharp and melodic, cut through the hum of conversation as she bantered with Dr. Hugo Albrecht, a German botanist with a penchant for rare orchids and cryptic silences. His wire-rimmed spectacles glinted as he leaned closer, whispering something that made Isabella's smile falter. Catherine entered, clutching her shawl, and took a seat near the window, where the fading coastline blurred into a watercolor of purples and grays. Poirot, ever the observer, joined her uninvited, his bow precise. "Mademoiselle Gray, permit me to introduce myself, Hercule Poirot, at your service. One observes you are not entirely at ease. Is it the grandeur of this train, or perhaps something more personal? Catherine blushed, her fingers tightening around the ruby choker. It's the jewels, Monsieur Poirot. They're beautiful, but they feel like a burden. And this letter. She hesitated, patting the reticule at her side. My aunt entrusted me with it, but I don't know its contents, only that it's urgent. Before Poirot could probe further, the Marquis de Varennes approached, his movements as smooth as the train's glide. Mademoiselle, those rubies are exquisite. A family heirloom, I presume. They rival the crown jewels of my ancestors. His tone was honeyed, but his eyes lingered too long on the gems. They were my aunt's, Catherine replied, her voice steady despite her unease. I'm not one for ostentation, but she insisted I wear them. Isabella Moretti joined them, her presence commanding the table. Rubies suit you, Cara, but beware, they draw envy like moths to a flame. She flicked a glance at the Marquis, her smile sharp. Some moths burn too close. Dr. Ulbrecht, hovering nearby, cleared his throat. Envy is a universal poison, Signora. In my studies, I've seen plants that kill with a single touch. People are not so different. The conversation paused as a waiter, a young man with nervous hands, delivered a tray of champagne flutes. As he set one before Catherine, a folded slip of paper fluttered from his tray to the floor. Poirot's quick hand retrieved it before anyone else noticed. He unfolded it discreetly. The rubies are watched. Trust no one. The script was elegant, almost feminine, with a faint trace of violet ink. Mademoiselle, Poirot said softly, slipping the note into his pocket, it seems your jewels have admirers. But fear not, Poirot is vigilant. Catherine's eyes widened, but before she could speak, a commotion erupted at the car's far end. A woman in a hooded cloak, her face obscured, had risen abruptly, knocking over a glass. You, she hissed, pointing to the Marquis, your promises are as empty as your title. She swept out, leaving a trail of jasmine perfume and stunned silence. Who was that? Catherine whispered.
Isabella leaned in, her voice low. That was Madame Céleste Dubois, a Parisian art dealer with a grudge. Rumor has it the Marquis swindled her out of a Matisse last year. Dr. Ulbricht adjusted his spectacles. Grudges fester like spores. This train carries more than passengers, it carries motives. As the evening deepened, the train plunged into a tunnel, the sudden darkness amplifying the clink of glasses and the rustle of silk. Poirot excused himself, his mind racing. The note, the cloaked woman's outburst, the Marquis's predatory charm, all were threads in a tapestry yet to be woven. He returned to his compartment, but not before noticing a shadow lingering near Catherine's door, too fleeting to identify. The figure slipped a small object beneath her door, a brass key glinting faintly in the corridor's lamplight. Catherine, retiring soon after, found the key and gasped. Attached was a tag, "For the truth, use this at midnight." Her heart raced. The letter in her reticule, the rubies, the key, each felt like a piece of a puzzle she hadn't agreed to solve. She locked her door, but sleep eluded her, the train's rhythm now a metronome of dread. In the smoking lounge, the Marquis lit a cigarette, his eyes narrowing as he overheard Isabella and Dr. Ulbricht in hushed debate. The rubies are a distraction. It's the letter she carries. I heard Lady Winthrop was entangled with spies during the war. Dr. Ulbricht nodded. Information is more valuable than gems, but who would risk exposure on a train? Their voices faded as the lounge emptied, but the Marquis lingered, his fingers drumming on the armrest. He extinguished his cigarette and moved toward the baggage car where crates of rare wines and locked trunks waited for inspection. There, among the shadows, he pried open a small case revealing a velvet pouch. Inside gleamed a single ruby, identical to Catherine's, yet unmounted, as if waiting for a purpose. Back in his compartment, Poirot sat with a notebook, sketching connections. The note's violet ink matched the scent of Celeste Dubois' perfume, but her public accusations seemed too bold for a clandestine warning. The key suggested access to what? A locked compartment, a safe, or something more esoteric. And the Marquis's interest in Catherine was no mere flirtation. His eyes held the hunger of a man chasing redemption or ruin. As the clock neared midnight, Catherine, clutching the brass key, ventured into the corridor. The train's sway felt like a heartbeat, each pulse urging her forward. She reached the service car, where a locked door bore a brass plate. The key fit perfectly, clicking open to reveal a narrow staircase descending to a storage hold. Inside, crates were stacked high, but one stood apart, its lid ajar. Within lay a leather-bound journal, its pages filled with coded entries, and a single name, Varenne. Before she could read further, a creak sounded behind her. She spun to find Dr. Albrecht, his face pale in the dim light. "You shouldn't be here, Fräulein. Some secrets are better left buried." Catherine backed away, clutching the journal. What do you know about this?" He stepped closer, then froze as footsteps echoed above. Poirot appeared, his cane tapping rhythmically. "Mademoiselle Gray, you are bold but unwise, and you, Herr Doctor, are far from your orchids tonight." Dr. Albrecht stammered. I was checking the ventilation. Mold spores, you see." "Enough, Poirot in. This journal, I suspect, holds the key to our mystery. But for now, we return to safety." They retreated, Catherine clutching the journal, her mind a whirl of questions. The rubies, the letter, the key, the journal, each was a beacon drawing unseen eyes. As the train sped through the night, its azure exterior a silent witness, Poirot escorted her back, his gray cells alight with possibilities. The first leg of the journey had ended, but the web of intrigue was only beginning to tighten. The dining car's lamps flickered as the train emerged from another tunnel, the passengers' faces now masks of secrets. Celeste Dubois sat alone, sketching in a notebook, her pencil strokes sharp and deliberate. Isabella practiced scales under her breath, her fingers tracing an imaginary opera. The Marquis sipped absinthe, his gaze distant, while Dr. Albrecht scribbled notes on a napkin, his hands unsteady. Catherine locked her door, the journal hidden beneath her pillow. The rubies glowed faintly in the moonlight, a reminder of her aunt's cryptic words, "Trust the stones, but not the hands that reach for them." As sleep finally claimed her, the train's whistle pierced the night, a haunting prelude to the dangers awaiting on the Riviera. Poirot, alone in his compartment, lit a single candle. "The blue train," he whispered, "is no mere conveyance. It is a stage, and the curtain has only just risen."
With that, he extinguished the flame, the darkness a canvas for his deductions, as the train carried its secrets southward into the unknown. Chapter 2. The Veil of Motives. The blue train carved its way through the rolling vineyards of Burgundy, its sapphire carriages bathed in the golden haze of dawn. The rhythmic clatter of wheels on tracks blended with the distant crow of roosters, heralding a new day that shimmered with promise and peril. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of freshly baked brioche and steaming coffee, a veneer of civility masking the undercurrents of suspicion that had taken root the previous night. Hercule Poirot, his silk tie knotted with mathematical precision, emerged from his first-class compartment, his green eyes sharp as cut emeralds. The mysterious brass key and coded journal found by Catherine Gray in the storage hold lingered in his mind, their secrets as tantalizing as the aroma drifting from the dining car. Poirot's little gray cells hummed with anticipation as he navigated the polished corridor, his cane tapping a deliberate rhythm. The events of the night, the anonymous note in violet ink, the shadowy figure at Catherine's door, and the journal bearing the Marquis de Varennes' name had woven a tapestry of intrigue that demanded his attention.
He paused briefly outside Catherine's compartment, noting the faint light beneath her door. She was awake, no doubt, wrestling with the weight of her discoveries. The rubies, the sealed letter from her late aunt, and now the journal, each a piece of a puzzle that seemed to grow more complex with every mile. In the dining car, chandeliers swayed gently, casting prisms of light across damask tablecloths. Catherine sat alone at a corner table, her ruby choker catching the morning sun like a cluster of glowing coals. Her fingers toyed with a silver spoon, her gaze fixed on the journal, now tucked inside her reticule alongside her aunt's letter. The note from the previous night, warning her that the rubies are watched, lay folded beside her teacup, its violet ink a stark contrast to the white paper. She looked up as Poirot approached, his bow as crisp as the morning air. "Bonjour, Mademoiselle Gray. One observes you are deep in thought. The journal, perhaps, or the key that led you to it?" Catherine's lips parted in surprise. "You miss nothing, Monsieur Poirot. The journal. It's written in code, but the name Varenne is clear. I don't know what it means, but it feels dangerous." Poirot nodded, his mustache twitching. "Danger, mademoiselle, is a shadow that follows wealth. But rest assured, Hercule Poirot is no stranger to shadows." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Isabella Moretti, the Italian opera singer, whose emerald gown was replaced today by a tailored suit of sapphire silk, her raven hair pinned with a pearl comb. She slid into a nearby chair, her smile radiant, but her eyes guarded. "Signor Poirot, Signorina Gray, you make a curious pair, plotting mysteries over breakfast." "Not plotting, but unraveling. The blue train, it seems, carries more than passengers." Isabella laughed, a sound like crystal shattering. "Oh, this train is a stage, and we're all actors, but some roles are darker than others." Her gaze flicked to the Marquis de Varenne, who entered with the grace of a panther, his dark suit immaculate, but his expression taut. He nodded curtly at the group before taking a seat near the window, where he unfolded a newspaper with exaggerated nonchalance. Dr. Hugo Ulbrecht, the German botanist, followed, his wire-rimmed spectacles fogging slightly from the warmth of the car. He carried a leather satchel, from which protruded a sheaf of botanical sketches, orchids, their petals drawn with obsessive detail. "Good morning," he said, his voice clipped. "The air here is heavy with more than coffee. Suspicion, perhaps." Catherine shifted uncomfortably, her hand brushing the reticule. "It's hard not to feel uneasy after last night. That key, the journal. Someone wanted me to find them." The Marquis lowered his newspaper, his hawkish eyes narrowing. "A journal, you say? This train breeds melodrama. Perhaps it's a prank, Mademoiselle Gray, or do you fancy yourself a heroine in a Gothic novel?" His tone was teasing, but Poirot caught the edge beneath it. "Pranks, Monsieur le Marquis, do not involve coded secrets nor clandestine keys, nor do they inspire such pointed interest." Before the Marquis could retort, Madame Celeste Dubois entered, her hooded cloak replaced by a severe black dress that accentuated her sharp features. Her jasmine perfume preceded her, a scent Poirot recognized from the violet ink of the note. She paused at their table, her eyes locking onto Catherine's rubies. "Those gems," she said, her voice low and accented, "are a beacon for trouble. You should lock them away, mademoiselle, before they draw the wrong hands." Catherine's fingers tightened around her choker. "They're my aunt's legacy. I won't hide them." Celeste's lips curved into a mirthless smile. "Legacy or curse, it matters little. Some treasures carry a price beyond gold." The tension was broken by a sudden jolt as the train slowed for a brief stop at a rural station, its platform bustling with vendors hawking flowers and pastries. Passengers rose to stretch their legs, but Poirot remained, his gaze darting between the group. Isabella excused herself to purchase a bouquet of lavender, while Dr. Ulbrecht muttered about inspecting the local flora. The Marquis lingered, his fingers drumming on the table until Celeste's sharp glance sent him retreating to the platform. Alone with Catherine, Poirot leaned forward. "Mademoiselle, the journal, may I see it?" She hesitated, then slid the leather-bound book across the table. Its pages were filled with cryptic symbols, numbers and letters interwoven like a cipher from a Renaissance cryptographer. The name Varenne appeared repeatedly, alongside references to the Blue Consignment and the Southern Vault. Poirot's eyes gleamed. This is no diary of idle thoughts. It speaks of a transaction, perhaps illicit, tied to our noble Marquis. Catherine frowned. "But why leave the key for me to find? It's as if someone wants me involved." "Or exposed," Poirot mused. "The rubies, the letter, the journal, they form a constellation, but the star at its center remains hidden." Their discussion was cut short by a commotion outside. A vendor's cart had overturned, spilling apples across the platform. Amid the chaos, Poirot glimpsed a figure in a gray coat, slipping a folded paper into Isabella's bouquet as she bent to help the vendor. The singer returned, unaware, clutching the lavender to her chest. Poirot excused himself and approached her under the pretense of admiring the flowers. "Signora Moretti, a lovely choice," he said, deftly plucking the paper from the stems. "But lavender hides thorns, does it not?" Isabella's eyes widened as he unfolded the note. In the same violet ink as Catherine's warning, it read, "The songbird's voice betrays the nest. Silence it." "Santa Maria," Isabella whispered, her hand flying to her throat. "This is about me?" Poirot tucked the note away. "Perhaps, Signora, or perhaps it is a lure to draw you into the web." The train's whistle signaled departure, and passengers hurried back aboard. As the blue train resumed its journey, Poirot guided Isabella and Catherine to the lounge car, where plush armchairs and a crackling fireplace offered a deceptive sense of calm. Dr. Albrecht joined them, his satchel now bulging with fresh samples. "The station was a treasure trove," he said, producing a sprig of wild thyme. "Nature hides her secrets well, unlike humans." The Marquis reappeared, his composure restored, but his eyes darted to Catherine's reticule. "Still clutching your mysteries, mademoiselle. Be careful, they might bite." Celeste, entering silently, overheard. "It's not her mysteries you should fear, Marquis. It's your own." The air crackled with unspoken accusations. Poirot, sensing the rising tension, proposed a diversion. He said, "Let us play a game of observation," he said, his tone light but his eyes piercing. "Each of you, describe something you've noticed on this train, something others might overlook." Isabella went first, her voice steady despite the note's threat. "The waiter Pierre hesitates when serving the Marquis. His hands shake, as if he knows something." Dr. Albrecht adjusted his spectacles. "The ventilation grates in the corridors, they're misaligned, as if recently tampered with. Curious for such a pristine train." Catherine spoke softly. "The lamps in my compartment flicker at odd intervals, like a signal." The Marquis smirked. "A poetic imagination, mademoiselle. I've noticed only the tedious chatter of bored aristocrats." Celeste's voice was cold. "I've noticed shadows that move when they shouldn't, near the baggage car at dusk." Poirot nodded, storing each observation. "Excellent. The smallest details weave the largest truths." As the afternoon waned, the train entered a long viaduct, its stone arches casting fleeting shadows across the windows. Catherine excused herself to freshen up, but moments later, a sharp cry echoed from her compartment. Poirot and the others rushed to find her door ajar, her reticule upended on the floor. The journal was intact, but her aunt's sealed letter was gone, replaced by a single lavender sprig, identical to Isabella's bouquet. "It was locked," Catherine gasped, her face pale. Someone picked the lock. Poirot examined the door, noting faint scratches around the keyhole. A skilled hand, he murmured, but not invisible. Isabella clutched her own bouquet, her face ashen. The note, it's connected, isn't it? Dr. Albrecht peered over his spectacles. A thief with a taste for theatrics, or a warning. The Marquis folded his arms. This is absurd. A lost letter, a sprig of lavender. What next? Ghosts? Celeste's eyes burned. Mock if you will, Varenne, but secrets don't stay buried. Poirot restored order, sending the group back to their seats. He lingered with Catherine, inspecting the sprig. This is no coincidence, mademoiselle. The letter's theft is a move in a larger game. Guard the journal with your life. As night fell, the blue train plunged into a tunnel, the darkness amplifying every creak and whisper. In the baggage car, a lone figure rummaged through a crate, unaware of Poirot's silent observation from the shadows. The figure extracted a small vial, clear liquid glinting within, before slipping away. Poirot's mustache twitched. The vial's contents were unknown, but its purpose was undoubtedly sinister. Back in the lounge, Catherine sat with Isabella, the two women forming a tentative alliance. I don't know who to trust, Catherine admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Isabella squeezed her hand. Trust yourself, Cara, and perhaps Signor Poirot. He sees what others miss. Dr. Albrecht, sketching nearby, glanced up. Trust is a luxury on this train. Even plants deceive. Mimosa closes its leaves at the slightest touch. The Marquis, nursing a brandy, watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. Celeste, meanwhile, stood by the window, her silhouette framed against the moonlit hills, her fingers tracing the edge of a hidden locket. Poirot returned, his mind a whirlwind of deductions. The stolen letter, the lavender sprig, the vial, the journal's code, all pointed to a conspiracy that stretched beyond the train's elegant confines. The blue train, he said to himself, is a crucible, and we are all being tested. As the train sped toward the Riviera, its sapphire exterior gleaming under the stars, the passengers settled into an uneasy truce. Catherine locked her compartment, the journal hidden beneath her mattress. Isabella practiced a soft aria, her voice a shield against fear. Dr. Albrecht catalogued his samples, his notes interspersed with cryptic symbols. The Marquis retired early, his door bolted, and Celeste, alone, opened her locket, revealing a faded photograph of a young man, his face eerily similar to the Marquis's. Poirot, in his own compartment, lit a single cigarette, a rare indulgence. The veil of motives is lifting, he murmured, exhaling a plume of smoke. The truth remains just out of reach. The train's whistle sang into the night, a haunting melody that promised revelations with the dawn.
Chapter 3. Echoes in the Darkness. The blue train thundered through the moonlit valleys of Provence, its sapphire carriages a streak of elegance against the rugged landscape, dotted with ancient olive trees and lavender fields that shimmered silver under the stars. The night's hush was broken only by the steady cadence of steel on rails, a lullaby that masked the brewing storm of secrets within. Hercule Poirot, his velvet dressing gown tied neatly, paced his compartment, the stolen letter from Catherine Grey's reticule weighing on his thoughts like an unsolved riddle. The lavender sprig left in its place, the cryptic vial glimpsed in the baggage car. These were not random acts, but deliberate strokes in a masterpiece of deception. His green eyes gleamed in the lamplight as he consulted his notebook, lines connecting names like constellations: Marquis de Varenne, Isabella Moretti, Dr. Hugo Albrecht, Madame Celeste Dubois. Each harbored motives, each a potential architect of chaos. Catherine Grey, in her adjacent compartment, sat by the window, the ruby choker a warm glow against her skin. The journal's coded pages lay open before her, its symbols taunting her with half-formed meanings. She had deciphered fragments. Consignment arrives at dawn. Vault under the palm. But the full picture eluded her. The theft of her aunt's sealed letter had left her adrift, a vessel in turbulent waters. A soft knock interrupted her reverie. She opened the door to find Isabella Moretti, her sapphire silk suit replaced by a flowing nightgown, her raven hair loose and wild. "Signorina Gray," Isabella whispered, glancing down the corridor. "I couldn't sleep. That note in my bouquet, Silence the songbird, it's haunted me. May I come in?" Catherine stepped aside, locking the door behind them. "Of course. I feel the same. The letter's gone, and with it, whatever truth my aunt intended." Isabella perched on the edge of the berth, her hands clasped. "We women must stick together on this infernal train. Tell me, what have you made of the journal?" Catherine hesitated, then shared her partial decodings. "It mentions a blue consignment, perhaps tied to the train itself, and Varenne's name appears with sums of money, large ones." Isabella's eyes widened. "Varenne? He's a charmer, but I've heard whispers in Milan salons. He's in debt, gambling away his estate. Could he be after your rubies to settle scores?" Their discussion deepened as the train rattled over a bridge, the river below a black ribbon in the moonlight. Suddenly, a faint scratching sounded at the door, like nails on wood. Catherine froze. Isabella rose, her face pale. "Who's there?" No answer came, but the handle jiggled subtly. Catherine grabbed a brass lamp, her grip tight. The noise ceased, replaced by retreating footsteps. Peering through the keyhole, Catherine caught a glimpse of a gray coat vanishing around the corner, the same shade as the figure at the station. "We must tell Poirot," Isabella urged, her voice trembling but resolute. Meanwhile, in the observation car at the rear of the train, Dr. Hugo Albrecht stood alone, his satchel open on a wicker table. He examined the vial Poirot had seen him retrieve, its clear liquid swirling as he tilted it. A simple sedative, or so they think. His botanical sketches lay scattered, but one drawing stood out. Not an orchid, but a diagram of the train's layout, with X marks on certain compartments. A creak behind him made him spin. Madame Celeste Dubois emerged from the shadows, her black dress blending with the night. "Herr Doctor," she said, her jasmine perfume cloying in the confined space. "You prowl like a fox in the henhouse. What secrets do your plants hide?" Albrecht pocketed the vial swiftly. "Madame, my work is science, not skullduggery. But you accuse the Marquis publicly. Why?" Celeste's eyes flashed. "Varenne ruined my brother in a forged art deal. That Matisse was our family's last asset. Now I seek restitution, not revenge." Albrecht leaned closer, his spectacles reflecting the stars. "Restitution? Or the blue consignment mentioned in whispers? I overheard you in Paris. You're no mere art dealer." Celeste stiffened. "Eavesdropping suits a botanist. Careful, doctor. Some roots run deep and poisonous." Their exchange ended abruptly, as the train lurched, entering a tunnel that plunged the car into pitch blackness. A muffled thud echoed, followed by a gasp. When light returned, Albrecht lay slumped against the window, a trickle of blood from his temple, the vial shattered on the floor. Celeste backed away, her hands raised. "I didn't touch him." Poirot, alerted by the conductor's whistle, arrived moments later with Catherine and Isabella in tow. The Marquis de Varenne followed, his face a mask of feigned surprise. "What fresh horror is this?" Poirot knelt beside Albrecht, checking for a pulse. Unconscious, but alive. A blow to the head, precise, not fatal. He sniffed the broken vial's remnants, ether mixed with something herbal. Not poison, but a knockout agent. Catherine gasped at the diagram on the table. "Look, the train's map, marked at the baggage car, and my compartment." Isabella picked up a torn scrap of paper from the floor, its violet ink familiar. The roots must be cut. It's the same hand as my note." The Marquis examined Albrecht's wound. A blunt object, perhaps a cane or bottle. But who? Celeste, composed now, interjected. "We were talking when the tunnel hit. I heard a third presence, breathing, close." Poirot's mustache quivered. "A third? The observation car has only one entrance, unless—" He inspected the window latch, slightly ajar. Someone entered from outside during the darkness. The group fell silent as the conductor summoned a doctor from second class. Albrecht stirred, mumbling incoherently about spores and vaults. Poirot pocketed the diagram discreetly, his mind racing. This assault was no random act. It targeted knowledge, perhaps the vial's true purpose. As Albrecht was carried to his compartment under guard, the suspects dispersed uneasily. Catherine and Isabella returned to the lounge, where a late-night pianist played a melancholy waltz. "This train is cursed," Catherine said, sipping chamomile tea. "First the letter, now this attack."
Isabella nodded, her fingers tracing the piano's keys idly. "But curses are made by men. Varenne, he arrived too quickly. And Celeste, her grudge runs deep." A new passenger, introduced earlier but overlooked in the chaos, joined them. Monsieur Émile Nourant, a Swiss banker with a portly frame and a gold pocket watch. He had boarded at the last stop, his valise heavy with documents. "Ladies, forgive the intrusion," he said, his accent crisp. "I heard of the incident. As a man of finance, I deal in risks. Perhaps I can offer insight." Catherine eyed him warily. "Insight? Into what?" Laurent leaned in. "Your rubies, mademoiselle. They're not just jewels. They're collateral in a larger scheme. Lady Winthrop, your aunt, invested in Varenne's ventures, art, gems, secrets. The letter you carried? Likely a deed or will." Isabella's eyes narrowed. "How do you know this?" Laurent smiled faintly. "Bankers hear things. And that journal? I've seen similar codes in Swiss vaults. It's a ledger of smuggled assets." Their conversation flowed into theories, Laurent revealing tidbits. The blue consignment was slang for sapphire shipments, but twisted here to mean something illicit, perhaps documents or contraband hidden on the train. Meanwhile, Poirot interrogated Celeste in her compartment, the jasmine scent overpowering. "Madame, your presence at the assault is convenient. And the violet ink, yours?" Celeste produced a bottle from her vanity. "Yes, but common in Paris. I wrote no notes. I seek justice, not violence." Poirot pressed. "Justice for your brother, but the photograph in your locket. It's Varenne as a youth. Family ties." Celeste's facade cracked. "He is my cousin, disowned. The Matisse was our shared inheritance. He forged my signature." A revelation that shifted alliances. Poirot left, pondering blood bonds and betrayals. In the baggage car, the Marquis de Varenne rummaged stealthily, his flashlight beam dancing over crates. He pried open one labeled orchids, revealing not plants, but wrapped packages, gems, papers, a false bottom. "The consignment," he whispered, extracting an envelope sealed with wax. A noise made him freeze. Émile Laurent emerged, his watch chain glinting. "Varenne," Laurent said coolly, "stealing from your own scheme? The bank knows of your debts." The Marquis straightened. "Laurent, you meddle in affairs beyond ledgers. This is mine by right." Their standoff escalated into a hushed argument, Laurent accusing Varenne of using the train for smuggling, Varenne countering with threats of exposure. "The vault in Nice holds the key, literally. Winthrop's letter unlocks it." Unbeknownst to them, Dr. Albrecht, recovering in his berth, overheard through a vent. His head bandaged, he scribbled a note. "Vault, under palm.
Consignment is codes for war secrets. He slipped it under Poirot's door before succumbing to drowsiness. Dawn approached as the blue train neared Marseille, the sea a distant shimmer. Poirot assembled the group in the salon car, the air thick with espresso and tension. "Mes amis," he began, "the assault on Herr Albrecht was a silencing attempt. The vial? A distillate of nightshade, mild but potent in doses." Catherine shared Laurent's insights. "The rubies are bait, the letter a key to a vault." Isabella added, "And the codes, smuggling ledger." Varenne blustered, "Preposterous." Celeste interjected, "Not so. The consignment is our family's lost artifacts, hidden by Varenne." Laurent nodded, "And war documents, valuable to collectors." Albrecht wheeled in, confirmed. "I was hired to authenticate the botanicals, covers for gems." Revelations piled up. The gray-coated figure was a hired hand, the notes warnings from an insider. Poirot connected dots. The thief of the letter aims for the vault first. As the train slowed into Marseille, a telegram arrived for Poirot. "Vault compromised. Hurry." Signed, anonymously. The chapter closed with the group alighting briefly, shadows lengthening. Catherine clutched her rubies. Isabella hummed a protective tune. Albrecht sketched warnings. Varenne plotted. Celeste schemed. Laurent calculated. Poirot smiled internally. The echoes in the darkness were clarifying. The Riviera's light promising truth.
Chapter 4. Whispers from the Vault. The blue train eased into Marseille's bustling station with a sigh of steam, the Mediterranean sun casting a golden veil over the platforms teeming with fishermen hawking their catch and vendors peddling spiced olives. The air hummed with the salty tang of the sea and the distant clang of ship bells, a stark contrast to the confined elegance of the sapphire carriages. Hercule Poirot stepped onto the platform, his patent leather shoes clicking against the cobblestones, his green eyes scanning the crowd like a conductor surveying an orchestra. The telegram clutched in his gloved hand, "Vault compromised. Hurry," pulsed with urgency, its anonymous sender a phantom in the puzzle that had enveloped the journey. The assault on Dr. Hugo Albrecht lingered in his mind, the botanist's mumbled revelations about war secrets and the consignment adding layers to the enigma of Catherine Grey's rubies, the stolen letter, and the coded journal. Catherine disembarked next, her ruby choker hidden beneath a high-collared blouse, the journal tucked securely in her valise. The theft of her aunt's sealed letter had ignited a fire within her, transforming her from a wide-eyed inheritor to a determined seeker of truth. Isabella Moretti followed, her raven hair tied back in a practical scarf, her opera singer's poise masking a flicker of anxiety. "Marseille," she murmured, inhaling deeply, "a city of ports and passages, perfect for vanishing acts." Dr. Albrecht, his head still bandaged, leaned on Monsieur Émile Laurent's arm as they alighted. The Swiss banker's gold pocket watch swung like a pendulum, his portly frame steady despite the chaos. "This stop is brief, but the telegram demands action. The vault, it's in the old quarter, under the shadow of a famed palm grove." The Marquis de Varenne sauntered down last, his hawkish features set in a veneer of boredom, though his eyes betrayed a calculating gleam. Madame Celeste Dubois, her black dress absorbing the sunlight, nodded curtly to him, a silent acknowledgment of their familial bloodline revealed the night before. "Cousin, your games end here." Poirot gathered them in a huddle away from prying ears. "Mes amis, the train departs in 2 hours. We must investigate this vault. But caution, the compromise suggests our adversary is ahead." Laurent, ever the financier, produced a folded map from his coat. "The vault is in Banque Privé's cellar, disguised as a wine storage. Lady Winthrop used it for her unconventional assets. The palm refers to the courtyard tree marking the entrance." Catherine's voice was firm. "My aunt's letter was the key, literally, perhaps a code or passphrase. Without it, how do we access?" Albrecht, wincing from his injury, offered, "The consignment includes authentication papers. If compromised, war-era documents could fetch fortunes on the black market." The group split to avoid suspicion. Poirot with Catherine and Isabella toward the old quarter, Laurent escorting Albrecht to a nearby café for reconnaissance, and the Marquis with Celeste trailing discreetly, their familial tension a taut wire. As Poirot's trio navigated the labyrinthine streets, the scent of bouillabaisse wafting from open windows, Catherine spotted a familiar gray coat ducking into an alley. There, the figure from the train. They pursued, weaving through crowds of sailors and merchants. The chase led to a shaded plaza where a massive palm tree loomed over a nondescript door etched with Banque Privé's insignia. The gray-coated individual slipped inside, but not before dropping a glove, monogrammed with E.L. "Laurent," Isabella gasped, picking it up. "But he's with Albrecht." Poirot's mustache quivered. Appearances deceive. Hurry. Inside the bank, a marble foyer echoed their footsteps. A stern clerk behind a mahogany desk eyed them suspiciously. "Appointments only, messieurs dames." Poirot flashed a fabricated card, his detective credentials embellished for effect. "We are here on behalf of Lady Winthrop's estate. Urgent matter." The clerk hesitated, then buzzed them through to the cellar stairs. Descending into cool, dimly lit vaults lined with iron safes, they heard voices echoing from a side chamber. Peering through a grate, they saw Laurent confronting the gray-coated individual, unmasked as a wiry man with a scarred cheek. "You fool, the letter was incomplete. The vault requires a retinal scan. Winthrop's doing. Biometrics ahead of her time." The scarred man snarled. "Then we blast it. The documents inside, Nazi collaboration lists, worth millions to the right buyers." Catherine stifled a gasp. Her aunt involved in wartime espionage? The rubies suddenly felt like blood money. Isabella whispered, "We need proof." Poirot nodded, signaling retreat. But a loose stone underfoot clattered, alerting the duo. "Intruders!" the scarred man yelled, drawing a pistol. A frantic scramble through the vault's maze, echoes amplifying the pursuit. Catherine dodged behind a stack of crates, her heart pounding. Isabella, drawing on her stage agility, toppled a shelf of ledgers, creating a barrier. Poirot, cane in hand, parried a blow from the scarred man, disarming him with a swift twist. Laurent, cornered, raised his hands. "Poirot, this isn't what it seems." "Explain, monsieur," as police alarms wailed. Laurent sighed, "I'm undercover for Interpol. Winthrop hired me to safeguard the consignment. The letter held coordinates, but the thief, likely Varenne, altered plans." The scarred man, subdued, spat. "He's lying. Laurent's the fence." Sirens approached, forcing a hasty exit through a service tunnel. Emerging into the palm courtyard, they found Albrecht waiting, his bandage askew. I followed, suspected Laurent. Back at the café, the group reconvened, the Marquis and Celeste arriving breathless. "We saw police. What happened?" Poirot outlined the vault confrontation, eyeing Laurent. "Your glove, monsieur. Careless."
Laurent chuckled ruefully. "A plant. The real thief wanted me framed." Catherine interjected, "The documents, Nazi lists? My aunt was a resistor, not collaborator." Albrecht nodded. "Precisely. The lists expose traitors, not indict her. Valuable for justice or blackmail." The Marquis shifted uncomfortably. "My debts. I knew of the vault, but I didn't steal the letter." Celeste glared. "Liar. Our family's name is on those lists. Your father's collaboration." A heated debate erupted, accusations flying like sparks. Isabella mediated. "We need evidence, not words." Poirot, piecing fragments, suggested the journal's code. Perhaps it unlocks the vault's secondary access. Catherine decoded on the spot. "Palm shadow at noon reveals the latch." With time ticking, the train's departure looming, they returned to the courtyard.
Under the palm's shade, a hidden panel in the fountain base clicked open, revealing a small safe. Inside, duplicates of the documents, a note from Lady Winthrop. For Catherine, expose the shadows. But as they pocketed the papers, the scarred men reappeared with reinforcements, 2 burly thugs. "Hand them over!" A melee broke out in the plaza, tourists scattering. Catherine wielded her valise like a shield, Isabella's high kick felling one thug. Poirot's cane tripped another, while Laurent grappled the scarred man. Albrecht, despite his injury, hurled a Cathay chair, buying time. Police arrived, arresting the assailants. The scarred man, cuffed, sneered at Laurent. "You'll pay, traitor." In the station's shadow, the group boarded the blue train just as it whistled departure. Breathless in the lounge car, Catherine unfolded the documents, names, dates, betrayals from the war. "Varenne's father is listed, profiteer." The Marquis paled. "I sought to destroy them, yes, but I didn't assault or steal." Celeste softened. "Then who?" Laurent confessed partially. "I took the letter, to protect it, but someone else knew." Albrecht interjected. "The vial I had, truth serum for interrogation. I suspected all." Isabella laughed nervously. "This train turns us into spies." Poirot, settling into his seat as the landscape blurred, murmured, "The vault's whispers reveal much, but the symphony is incomplete. The Riviera awaits, the final act." The chapter's revelations hung like mist over the sea, alliances forged in fire, as the blue train hurtled toward destiny.
Chapter 5. The Tangled Web. The blue train sliced through the sun-dappled hills of the Côte d'Azur, its sapphire carriages gleaming like a jewel against the backdrop of cypress trees and terracotta rooftops. The Mediterranean sparkled to the east, its azure waves a mocking mirror to the turmoil within the train's opulent confines. Hercule Poirot sat in the salon car, his velvet waistcoat pristine despite the sleepless hours, his green eyes dissecting the morning's newspaper as if it held the key to the labyrinthine mystery unfolding. The revelations from Marseille, the compromised vault, the war-era documents implicating the Marquis de Varenne's father, and Monsieur Émile Laurent's dubious Interpol claim, had tightened the noose of suspicion around every passenger. Catherine Gray's rubies, the stolen letter, the coded journal, and the assault on Dr. Hugo Albrecht formed a constellation of clues, each point a star of deceit. Catherine, seated across from Poirot, clutched her valise, where the journal and the vault's documents lay hidden. Her ruby choker, now concealed beneath a silk scarf, felt like a brand of danger. The documents, naming wartime traitors, had transformed her aunt's legacy from sentimental to sinister. She glanced at Isabella Moretti, who strummed an imaginary aria on the table's edge, her raven hair catching the sunlight. "This train," Catherine murmured, "feels like a cage, not a palace." Isabella nodded, her voice low. "A gilded cage, Cara, but cages can be broken." Dr. Hugo Albrecht, his head wound now a faint bruise, joined them, his satchel replaced by a single notebook. His spectacles gleamed as he scribbled, his German accent clipped. "The documents confirm it, Harry. Lady Winthrop was a double agent, hiding resistance secrets in gem shipments. The rubies were her cover." The Marquis de Varenne entered, his usual swagger subdued, his hawkish eyes darting to Catherine's scarf. "Mademoiselle Gray, you carry a burden heavier than jewels. My father's shame is not mine, yet it haunts me." Madame Celeste Dubois followed, her black dress softened by a lace shawl, her jasmine perfume a subtle reminder of her presence at every twist. "Cousin," she said to the Marquis, her tone icy, "your father's sins are a debt we both pay. But who stole the letter to frame us?" Monsieur Émile Laurent, the Swiss banker, lingered at the bar, his gold pocket watch ticking like a metronome. He sipped an espresso, his portly frame tense. "The thief is among us," he said, joining the group. "Interpol's orders were clear. Protect the documents. I took the letter to decode it,
but someone else wanted it first. Poirot folded his newspaper with a flourish. Mes amis, the web is tangled, but Hercule Poirot sees the threads. The letters theft, the vault's breach, the attack on Herr Albrecht all point to one goal: control of the war secrets. But why now, on this train? The salon car's doors slid open, admitting a new figure. Madame Véronique Lemaire, a journalist with sharp cheekbones and a notebook tucked under her arm. She had followed this story since Paris. Lady Winthrop's secrets are a scoop that could topple governments. May I join your council? Catherine hesitated, but Poirot inclined his head. A journalist's eye may see what others miss, but beware, madam. Curiosity is a dangerous guest. As the train wound through a coastal cliff, the conversation turned to the documents. Catherine produced them, their yellowed pages dense with names and coded transactions. These list French collaborators, but also resistance operatives. My aunt protected both, for leverage. Veronique's pen scratched furiously. Leverage, or blackmail. This could ruin families like Varennes. The Marquis bristled. My father was coerced, not a traitor. I sought the documents to burn them, not profit. Celeste scoffed. Burn them, or sell them to erase your gambling debts. Laurent interjected. The vault's secondary lock, a retinal scan, required Winthrop's kin. Catherine, your eyes may be the key. Catherine paled. Me, but I never knew her secrets. Isabella's voice was soft. Yet someone believes you do. The notes, the thefts, they're targeting you. A sudden jolt shook the train, glasses rattling. The conductor's voice crackled over the intercom. Mesdames et messieurs, a brief delay. Debris on the tracks. Please remain seated. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Debris or sabotage? He rose, beckoning Catherine and Isabella. To the engine car. We must see. They navigated the swaying corridors, passing anxious passengers. The engine car was a furnace of heat and steam. The driver, a grizzled man named Jacques, cursing as he inspected a broken signal wire. Cut clean, he growled. No accident. Catherine spotted a glint on the floor, a silver cigarette case, monogrammed V. Marquise? She whispered. Poirot pocketed it. Or a plant. The web tightens. Back in the salon, the group reconvened, the Marquis feigning surprise at the case. Mine, yes, but lost yesterday. Someone's framing me. Veronique, scribbling, mused, a frame within a frame. This story writes itself. Albrecht, his voice strained, offered, the truth serum I carried. It could force answers, but it's gone, stolen in Marseille. Celeste's eyes flashed. Stolen like my brother's future. Varenne, your hands are never clean. The train lurched forward, resuming its journey, but the air grew heavier. Poirot proposed a bold move. We stage a trap. Mademoiselle Gray, announce you've decoded the journal's final secret. A meeting tonight in the baggage car. Catherine hesitated. But I haven't. Précisément, Poirot said. The lie draws the spider. As dusk painted the sky in hues of coral and indigo, Catherine spread the ruse, whispering to each suspect that she'd cracked the code, a rendezvous at midnight to deliver the consignment to a buyer. The group dispersed, their faces masks of calculation. In her compartment, Catherine confided in Isabella. I'm scared, but I trust Poirot. My aunt's legacy, it's more than rubies. Isabella squeezed her hand. You're braver than you know, but watch Laurent. His Interpol story feels thin. At midnight, the baggage car was a cavern of shadows, crates stacked like tombstones. Poirot, Catherine, and Isabella hid behind a wine barrel, the journal a decoy in Catherine's hand. Footsteps echoed. 2 sets, deliberate.
The Marquis emerged, his flashlight sweeping, followed by Veronique, her notebook replaced by a small recorder. "Veron," she hissed, "you promised me the scoop. Where's the consignment?" He snarled, "You'll get your story when I get the documents. The buyer's waiting in Nice." A third figure appeared. Jacques, the engine driver, wielding a wrench. "No buyer," he growled. "I cut the wire to stop this nonsense. The consignment's mine. Payment for years of silence." Poirot stepped forward, his cane gleaming. "Monsieur Jacques, your role is revealed. You knew Winthrop's network, her courier, perhaps." Jacques lunged, but Isabella's stage-trained reflexes tripped him, sending the wrench clattering. Veronique bolted, only to be caught by Laurent, who emerged from the shadows. "Enough," he said, flashing an Interpol badge, this time genuine. Jacques was Winthrop's rummer, turned rogue. Catherine's voice trembled. "The rubies, they were signals, weren't they, to mark safe drops?" Laurent nodded. "Your aunt used them to pass messages. The documents name living traitors, dangerous men." The Marquis, cuffed by Laurent's backup, confessed, "I wanted the papers to clear my name. My father's shame drove me to ruin." Celeste, arriving late, wept, "And my brother's honor, restored at last." Albrecht, summoned, confirmed. The truth serum was for Jacques, to extract his contacts. "I was Winthrop's botanist, hiding codes in plant sketches." Veronique, subdued, admitted, "I chased fame, not truth. I'll bury the story." As the train neared Nice, the web unraveled. Jacques was detained, the documents secured for Interpol. Catherine's rubies, now symbols of resistance, gleamed with new purpose. Poirot, sipping a tisane, smiled. "The truth, mes amis, is a tangled web, but Hercule Poirot cuts through." The train's whistle sang, a prelude to the final act in Nice, where justice awaited.
Chapter 6. The Riviera Reckoning. The blue train glided into Nice's sunlit station, its sapphire carriages shimmering under a sky as clear as cut crystal. The platform buzzed with porters hauling trunks, vendors hawking roses, and the distant lilt of a street violinist weaving a melody through the salty breeze. Hercule Poirot stepped onto the cobblestones, his patent leather shoes gleaming, his emerald-green waistcoat a beacon of order amid the chaos. The events of the journey, Catherine Gray's ruby choker, the stolen letter, the coded journal, the vault's war secrets, and the unmasking of Jacques the engine driver as a rogue operative, had spun a web of intrigue that now demanded its final unraveling. Poirot's little gray cells thrummed with anticipation. The anonymous telegram from Marseille, "Vault compromised, hurry," still echoing in his mind like a coda to a symphony. Catherine Gray followed, her valise clutched tightly, the journal and recovered documents safe within. Her rubies, now revealed as signals for her aunt's resistance network, remained hidden beneath a linen scarf, their glow a quiet testament to her transformed resolve. Isabella Moretti, her raven hair pinned elegantly, scanned the crowd with a performer's instinct, her eyes catching every fleeting shadow. "Nice," she murmured, "where secrets bloom like jasmine." Dr. Hugo Albrecht, his head wound now a faint scar, adjusted his spectacles, his notebook of coded botanical sketches tucked under his arm. "The Riviera hides as much as it reveals," he said, his German accent softened by fatigue. "The documents must reach the authorities safely." Monsieur Émile Laurent, the Swiss banker turned Interpol agent, checked his gold pocket watch. "It's ticking a steady pulse. My contacts await us at the Palais de Justice. The traitors named in those papers will face trial." The Marquis de Varenne, his hawkish features drawn, walked apart, his earlier bravado replaced by a somber air.
Madame Celeste Dubois, her lace shawl fluttering, kept pace beside him, their familial rift softened by shared truths about their father's wartime betrayals. "Cousin, we end this together." Madame Veronique Lemaire, the French journalist, lingered at the group's edge, her notebook closed, her ambition to chase a sensational story now tempered by the weight of lives at stake. "I'll report the truth," she vowed, "but only what serves justice." Poirot gathered them under the station's arched canopy, his cane tapping rhythmically. "Mes amis, the blue train has delivered us to the final act. The documents expose a network of traitors, but one thread remains loose: the mastermind who orchestrated the letter's theft and Jacques' betrayal. We proceed to the Palais, but with vigilance." As they hailed carriages to the old town, a sudden commotion erupted near the platform's edge. A flower vendor's cart toppled, roses scattering like blood across the stones. Amid the chaos, a figure in a straw hat slipped a sealed envelope into Catherine's valise, unnoticed but all but Poirot's hawk-like gaze. He signaled her silently, and she retrieved it as they boarded a carriage. The envelope bore no name, only a wax seal stamped with a palm frond, the same symbol from the vault. Inside, a note in violet ink read, "The truth lies in the mirror of the past. Meet at Villa Étoile, midnight." Catherine's breath caught. Another trap? Poirot's mustache twitched. Or the final key. Villa Étoile, Lady Winthrop's old residence. We go, but not unprepared. The Palais de Justice loomed in Nice's historic quarter, its marble facade a sentinel of order. Laurent led them to a secure chamber where Interpol agents awaited, their faces grim as they reviewed the documents. A senior officer, Commandant Duval, nodded gravely. These names, ministers, generals, could destabilize nations. Lady Winthrop's work saved countless lives, but her enemies live. Laurent confirmed Jacques was a pawn paid to steal the letter and deliver it to a buyer. The mastermind remains at large. Isabella, her voice steady, asked, "Could it be someone on the train, a passenger we overlooked?" Duval's eyes narrowed. "Possible. We've had reports of a smuggler, Le Murer, operating along the Riviera. Elusive, brilliant, and ruthless." The group exchanged glances, the name sparking unease. Celeste whispered, "The mirror of the past," the note's words. Poirot, silent until now, interjected, "Command, we have an appointment at Villa Étoile tonight. Permit us to draw this mirror into the open." Duval hesitated, then agreed, assigning 2 agents to shadow them. As they left the Palais, the sun dipped low, painting the city in hues of amber and rose. The group dined at a seaside café, the tension easing briefly over plates of niçoise salad and chilled rosé. Catherine, emboldened, shared a theory. "My aunt mentioned Villa Étoile in her diaries, not as a home, but a safe house. The mirror could be literal, a hidden compartment."
Veronique, sipping her wine, added, "In journalism, mirrors reflect truth or distort it. This miroir hides behind others' faces." Albrecht, sketching a palm frond, mused, "Botanically, mirrors are symmetry, patterns repeating. Perhaps the mastermind mimics another's actions." The Marquis, quieter now, said, "My father used mirrors in his study to conceal papers, a family trick." Celeste nodded. "Our father, your shame, my loss. Could Le Miroir be his old ally?" Laurent checked his watch. "Midnight approaches. We must prepare." As night fell, the group approached Villa Étoile, a Belle Époque mansion perched on a cliff overlooking the Baie des Anges. Its iron gates creaked open, revealing overgrown gardens and a facade lit by flickering lanterns. Poirot led, his cane probing the gravel path. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memory, chandeliers draped in cobwebs,
and a grand mirror dominating the foyer, its gilded frame etched with palm motifs. Catherine's pulse quickened. The mirror of the past. Isabella, ever theatrical, tested the frame, finding a hidden latch. It swung open, revealing a narrow passage descending to a cellar. Laurent's flashlight illuminated shelves of dusty files, maps, and, shockingly, a portrait of Lady Winthrop, her eyes identical to Catherine's. "A retinal scan," Laurent whispered. "The vault's lock was a decoy. This is the true safe." Before they could explore, footsteps echoed above. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, her face obscured by a veiled hat, holding a pearl-handled revolver. "The documents," she demanded, her voice low, accented. "Now." Celeste gasped. "Mary Claire, Dubois, my sister? You're dead." The woman laughed coldly. "Dead to you, sister. I'm Le Miroir, tying up father's loose ends. The documents will fund my empire." The Marquis lunged, but Mary Claire fired a warning shot, shattering a vase. Poirot stepped forward, his voice calm. "Madame, your web is intricate, but Hercule Poirot sees through mirrors. You stole the letter, used Jacques, planted notes to sow chaos." Mary Claire smirked. "Clever, detective. Winthrop's network was mine to inherit. The rubies marked her couriers. I tracked Catherine from Calais." Catherine, defiant, clutched the documents. "You'll not have them. My aunt's truth lives." Isabella, using her stagecraft, edged toward a candelabra, toppling it, to create a diversion. Smoke billowed as Laurent tackled Mary Claire, wresting the gun. Interpol agents stormed in, cuffs snapping around her wrists. Celeste wept, embracing her sister despite the betrayal. "Why, Mary?" "For power," Mary Claire spat. "Father taught me well." The cellar yielded more, coded ledgers natching the journal, detailing Le Miroir's smuggling ring. Albrecht's sketches confirmed the botanical codes, while Veronique, humbled, vowed to report only the heroics. The Marquis, cleared but chastened, offered his estate to fund reparations for his father's victims. As dawn broke, the group stood on the villa's terrace, the sea a mirror of light. Catherine removed her rubies, handing them to Duval. "For a museum, not a curse." Laurent saluted. "Your aunt would be proud." Isabella sang a soft aria, a requiem for the fallen. Celeste and the Marquis clasped hands, their feud buried. Poirot, gazing at the horizon, smiled. The blue train's mystery is solved. The mirror reflects justice. The train awaited, ready to carry them to new journeys, its sapphire gleam a promise of peace.